Nike SNKRS Shock drops. According to the American Psychological Association, sneakers is the top cause of stress in the United States. In a 2015 survey, the APA reported that 72% of Americans stressed about shock drops, AR hunts, scratchers, and sneaker stashes at least some of the time during the previous month. There are 4 primary chemicals in the brain that affect happiness: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. By designing gamified experiences such as copying from Nike SNKRS Shock drops that activate these chemicals, you can increase your users' happiness and loyalty. Ladies and gentlemen, today we will be discussing Nike SNKRS Shock drops. These will include the classic Nike Shock Leo drop, scratch drops, AR hunts, or also known as SNKRS CAMs, SNKRS Stashes, SNKRS Passes, and specifically for all of these forms of shock drops, we will be discussing how each shock drop works, what to do during them, how to be prepared for each of these releases, and finally, how do you know in advance before a shock drop will happen? Without any hesitation, let's kick it off with the most popular form of a shock drop, the classic Leo drop that I'm sure you guys all know. So how does this work? Once the product loads on Nike sneakers, you will be able to make entries into the drop. The reason I say entries is because despite it being a shock drop, it is still not a flow drop, aka first come first serve, but rather these are Leo drops still, usually what you would see on a normal drop. You still are able to make multiple entries into the Nike sneakers app for these, even though they are shock drops. As long as you enter all accounts within several minutes of the load, all will have an equivalent chance of purchasing that same product. Then in just a few minutes, you will see if you have successfully purchased the product or not. Like discussed in the intro, I will show you guys how to prepare for these and all the others in the next section. For now, let's move on to what a scratch drop is and how to successfully purchase when it comes to those. So, unlike the classic shock drop where those were a Leo drop and you would have a couple of minutes to make as many entries as possible, these scratch drops are not Leo. Instead, they are referred to as flow drops. Essentially, first come first serve, you'll want to be as fast as possible for these. You also won't have to wait to see if you were able to successfully purchase. Instead, it'll be more instant and you'll see right away if you were able to purchase or if you just missed them. So here's how to go about them. Once the page loads, you'll want to scroll up to the scratchable image. Then begin to swipe a little bit with your finger. You do not need to swipe every little bit of the image that you're going to be required to swipe. So after that, just remove your finger and wait for the video to begin playing. Now once the video pops up, simply hit the faded X in the top left corner. Most people do happen to miss this because it is very light. Some people don't even know this little X exists. But you can skip it and it will save you a very crucial 30 to 45 seconds. Then simply purchase the product and move on to another account you want to purchase with, because like I mentioned before, this one is first come first serve. You won't have to wait very long to see if you were able to purchase. It should be instant. Now with those out of the way, let's move on to some AR hunts, also known as SNKRS CAMs. Just like scratchers, these are flow drops, aka first come first serve. You'll want to be as fast as possible. With this, you'll need 2 devices, one to display the image you need to scan, and then your phone, of course, with the SNKRS app downloaded to then scan the image. It's as easy as that. Just open up the loaded page, scroll down to the SNKRS cam, and then scan the image with your camera. After that, purchase the product and move on to your next account. Regarding how to find the image, we will discuss that in the next section. Now let's move on to SNKRS Stashes, my personal favorite. Just like the past 2 forms of shock drops, this will be a flow, so speed will matter of course, but you'll have more time than you think when it comes to these. In fact, the MCA Air Force One stayed in stock for about 12 minutes, since the majority of people were unprepared for the shock drop. Essentially, your goal is to make sure you are at the location where the SNKRS app tells you to be. Then open the loaded page and tap I'm here. The app will validate if you are indeed there or not. Now you don't actually have to be there. Can just spoof your location with multiple free programs for Android or with iTools for iPhone. This is extremely easy to do. This is very self-explanatory, but if you do need any help with this, I did make an entire video dedicated to how to spoof your location for these. Feel free to check it out. I'll leave the link in the card above. Disclaimer, they occasionally do, very rarely, enable Bluetooth. When it is enabled, you will actually have to go to the location physically. Unfortunately, spoofing won't work in these cases, although this is very rare and ironically doesn't happen on the good drops such as MCA or Travis Scott Air Force One. It's very likely that Nike intentionally doesn't enable it for things like this since they know how violent it could potentially get. Finally, ending with SNKRS Passes, 90% of the time there will be a 15-minute warning upon loading for these SNKRS Passes. The other rare occasions, such as the many MCA or or even the old Sakai or Travis Scott Jordan 6s, for example, or Shock Passes on the other hand. Essentially, you just want to try to submit your reservation as soon as possible. Fair warning, Nike Sneakers does often have error loading passes. It's quite a frustration, so you may have to close and reopen the app after you see it load quite a few times until you do see it successfully load up on your phone. They do a 25-mile radius for every single big city they cover. You again don't need to be in range. You can spoof if you would like, but unlike stashes, you must be willing to pick up the pair physically. Stashes do ship to you, passes do not ship to you. You also can't tell a friend to log into the same account as you with their phone and try to pick it up for you. Hypothetically, if you were in Ohio and you have a friend in New York City, you would not be able to just tell him to log into your account for you and pick it up for you. Instead, the only possible way to do this would be to reserve it under his name and then overnight ship your device to him and hope that it gets to him in time. And he would successfully be able to pick it up, but without overnight shipping your actual device that you hit on, it's not going to be possible. Now, how can you be prepared for all of these? Well, first, for all of these, it's highly suggested you save all of your accounts, email addresses, and passwords on a Google Doc so you can essentially access them on mobile or desktop and copy and paste from wherever you are, whenever it is. If you need verified accounts, you would need to use a friend's phone number and have them forward you the verification code. You can only use each phone number once. After you use it twice, the last account you used it on will be unverified. Or if you don't want to bother your friends, you could purchase pre-verified, reliable accounts from my website TARS. The link for these will be in the description below. Regarding how you would know when a shock drop loads, if you don't have access to a monitor, just follow my Twitter account, KeithAdam10. I will tweet out for you guys when things of this nature do happen to go live. You can also download the SolLinks app, which is completely free. Definitely a fantastic backup to have. Regarding what supplies you will need for AR hunts, you would need 2 devices, of course. You might be confused because unless you're at school or work, you might not have 2 on hand. I mean, not many people carry around 2 phones with them, or if you're at the beach, you're not going to have a computer with you as well as your phone. So in the final section of this video, I will be telling you in advance how you can be prepared for these things and know in advance when they're going to be happening and how to be prepared with the 2 devices. For stashes, you will need iTools or a free program for Android to spoof your location. Feel free to watch the video I mentioned earlier for a more in-depth guide when it comes to this. And when using iTools, you will also need your computer with iTools downloaded on it, as well as a USB cord for your iPhone to connect to. It would be the charger you use on your iPhone. In the case that they do enable Bluetooth, you will either need a car, Metro card, or bicycle to get there. Now, for the final part of this video, how do you know when a sneaker will shock drop through any of these forms? Well, the entire premise of a shock drop is for it to be a shock. Not supposed to know, so you can't. Thank you guys for watching this video. I do appreciate it. Enjoy your day. Kidding. Essentially, there is a select few people who have access to this information over at Nike pre-drop. This is what one would refer to as early info. In my group Endurance, I do provide Nike sneakers early info for every single drop. This would include shock drops, SNKRS CAMs, scratch drops, and my personal favorite, SNKRS stashes. Everything from images for cams to exact coordinates for stashes, exact times, you name it. The most recent of which being the Jordan 5 Fire Red, which we knew over a week in advance for. Now, I've got good news and bad news for you. The bad news is that Endurance is currently out of stock, but you can feel free to follow the Twitter for updates when the next restock will be. The good news is that it's still possible to cop sorts of these drops for free. All you'll need for this is Twitter notifications for my account as well as the SolLinks app. Things such as stashes and cams may not be as possible, but you definitely can cop normal classic Nike sneaker shock drops, and there's a lot of money to be made there, or a lot of great personal pairs to be copped there if you're not into reselling, especially when stock is very high, such as the Jordan 5s, the Bred 11s, Bred 4s, etc. You guys get the gist of it. As long as you guys know what you're doing, which you do after watching this video, it is 100% very possible. You just won't have the same edge, but don't think it's impossible. I know you guys could do it. I have faith in you. But anyway, that will conclude it for today. Feel free to leave a like if you did enjoy the video or you perhaps learned a thing or two. Also, subscribe and enable post notifications just to stay 100% updated on all hyped releases. Link for the pre-verified accounts is in the description below, and I also left my Twitter and Endurance's Twitter in the description as well for you to follow. Good luck. Sneakers has a lot planned for the remainder of 2020, primarily once COVID settles down. Stay safe, guys, of course.
Mom always told me not to play. when another man's foot is in the way. Get your foot off my foot, ah.
Get your foot on my foot, yeah!
Your feet are so big, just like